All right, let's kick it. 5 viewers. Hi. Oh my gosh. Okay. Happy Sober Saturday, friends. Welcome to the Sobriety Diaries. My name is Nate. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic, and I will also be your host today on the Sobriety Diaries Roundtable Chat. The Sobriety Diaries is a video podcast where we talk to other recovering alcoholics and addicts. We hear their stories and hope to help others who may still be struggling. And we are live on YouTube today. Woo!
So cool.
We will also post this as a regular episode up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you listen. So make sure you subscribe. You can also head over to the sobrietydiaries.com for all things podcast related. So the Sobriety Diaries Roundtable is a group chat of sober individuals and friends of mine, where we offer experience and hope about our own personal journey with recovery, and we live stream it on Saturdays on YouTube. How fun, huh? So today's guests are Amber, 3 years clean from drugs, who appeared in episode 1 of our show. Hi, Amber.
Hello. Very grateful
Coming
to
to
be
us
here.
all the way from South Africa, right?
Yes, sunny South Africa.
Welcome. So glad you're back. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
We have Kiana, 6 years clean and sober.
Yes.
Hi, Kiana. How are you today?
I'm good.
We dressed the same. I think
We didn't
there was a memo, perhaps. No. Kiana's episode will air in the coming weeks, but it is so powerful, and she is just a beacon of light. And as we've discussed, Kiana, this is no coincidence. So
That's right.
we are here for a reason, and as I say in the close of every episode, I think if we can help just one person today, our job is done. So we were kind of chatting before we went live, and we were all a little nervous and unsure, and not, we've never done anything like this. But I think if we just keep the, what our passion is and what we're here for, keep that in mind and keep that close to our heart, we will be just fine.
Definitely.
So Amber, like I said, you were in episode 1, which aired on Thursday. Did you have any feedback from family or friends?
I didn't share it with my family. I shared it with some of my friends, and they told me that it was interesting to watch, and they're part of me, just the general thing. I think like for a lot of people that are sober and like who have never had addiction problems, it's really difficult to understand. Like, ooh, whoopee, you haven't drank for a couple of years, you haven't taken drugs
Right.
for 3 years, woohoo. So they're proud of me, but
It's deeper than that, though, right?
yes, of course.
It's not just drinking or not just drugging. It's changing our lives and being better people and helping others. So perhaps if they need help one day, perhaps hopefully they will seek it. But not everyone needs help. However, that is what we are here to hopefully provide to some today. So as I said, we will pick a topic and sort of frame our recovery discussion around it. And today I wanted to talk about mending relationships and how important that is in a recovery journey for most of us. For myself specifically, I can vividly remember that it was kind of that mountain in the distance and a huge hurdle that I was nervous to do and procrastinating on. I'm a world-class procrastinator, and this was no different. As the fog sort of started to lift off my brain and I gained some clarity on the last decade of my life and perhaps some destruction and ill will that I had caused other people, I knew that I would have to make that right, and it was very daunting. Especially for that to be such, a fresh thing in recovery. So I took direction fairly well and, tried to procrastinate as little as possible and make things right. Some of that involved sit-down conversations that weren't easy. Some of it involved displaying better life choices. Some of it, involved proving and showing that I was changing my life and changing my decision-making. So I think it doesn't look the same for everyone that we need to mend, and it doesn't look the same for every alcoholic. I think another important point is that we have to put our own feelings aside. It is not our decision whether folks forgive us. It is not our decision if it's now or later. We can't dictate their timeline. We can't decide for them. So we take our own feelings out of it, which is not always easy. So Kiana, can you kind of jump in and maybe add to that about sort of taking our own feelings out of it and starting on that journey of mending relationships?
Absolutely. I think this is something that I've had to face a number of times at some really uncomfortable moments in my life. In fact, I was thinking this morning about how the last time I had a confrontation with somebody who, really hadn't accepted my journey, even though I'm 6 years in, it unfortunately was a family member, and it manifested at my mother's funeral. And, I've spent the last 6 years plus with a lot of people who have encouraged me, stepped in, really, really seen the change that's happened, saw me at my best, saw me at the lowest low, and continued to support me. But unfortunately, sometimes family tends to be the last to come back for whatever reason. And, some of the things that have been typically said about me, she's a junkie, she's an addict, she's never going to change her life. And then coming to my mom's funeral and asking why they weren't invited to my wedding was kind of a little bit shocking for me. It's, when you step into recovery and you start to build a life for yourself, you expect that because you're doing the right thing, that people are going to come alongside you. And unfortunately, unmet expectations are one of those root issues that cause people to go back to relapse, go back to using. And, we take all this time going through this personal journey where, we try to really turn ourselves into stand-up human beings, be responsible, productive members of society. And we expect, when we put in this work and we do this effort to make the change, we expect that people are going to see that, receive it, and that they're going to come alongside us. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. You spend a lot of time doing work on you,
right,
but they aren't doing the work on them. They don't even know that there's work to be done in their hearts. They don't understand that they still, have a lot of hatred and a lot of hurt and resentment, that they're not able to see compassion in a situation. And that's okay, because the truth of the matter is, you do your due diligence. Just because you got everything right for yourself, doesn't mean that other people are going to come alongside you. And to be quite honest, the last thing I want to say about that is, as humans, we have this fleshly desire for this thing called reciprocity. We expect that when we step out and we do something for somebody, that they're going to at least meet us responsibly halfway. We see this in relationships, why don't you have the respect to treat me the way that I'm treating you? But the thing is, when you do things out of impure motivation or impure reasoning, that's when those unmet expectations rise, and that's when we start to see that there are rifts, and we can't heal everything. That's why the Serenity Prayer says we accept the things that we cannot change, that we ask for wisdom to discern those things. What can we have a hand in and what can we not? And unfortunately, it doesn't matter how sober you get. It doesn't matter how much of an upright life that you're going to live. Some people will never come to terms with that. Why? It has nothing to do with your sobriety or who you are, but it has to do with something in them as well. Unforgiveness is a serious, serious root of an issue. At the same time, we also need to be aware that, we did cause some chaos. We did cause destruction. We did hurt a lot of these relationships. And we didn't just steal things from them that were tangible. We took their peace of mind. We took, their trust in us. We stole their consciousness. We stole all of these things from them that aren't tangible, that can't just be replaced. Like, it's not just like, hey, can I pay you $100 back that I took out of your purse? It's like you stole their peace of mind. And unfortunately, those are just non-negotiables for people. And we need to be okay with the fact that our recovery is for us. It's not for anybody else. Sometimes we think we do it for other people, but really at the end of the day, it's got to be for us. We're the one.
That's exactly right. I love that. First of all, sometimes you do have to pay back the $100, but there is also a deeper impact. I love that expectations has already gotten brought up in our conversation, because if you are placing expectations on other people, there is a high likelihood that they will not be met and that you will be let down, and that can in turn, it's said in a 12-step program that expectations, as you said, Kiana, most oftentimes lead to relapse. So work for yourself, I think, is what I took most from your input there, and I love what you said, so thanks for sharing that. Amber, we saw your episode and heard your episode on Thursday, so thanks for being back so soon. I got some positive feedback, and everyone loved your story, so I wanted to invite you here today. But we talked a little about mending relationships in your episode, and I kind of wanted just to dig in a little more. Have you, as far as, your sister perhaps being in and out and maybe not sticking to a rigid recovery journey like you are, does that sort of drive a wedge between the two of you?
I was hoping that it wouldn't, but my sister has been in an outpatient treatment program for the past couple of weeks. I would say I'm not 100% sure of the time, but unfortunately, yes, I do feel like it's impacted us in some way, because like earlier on, I was at my cousin's 21st birthday, and my gran was there, and she was telling me that my sister was acting really weird today. So the first thing that I thought was, oh my goodness, she just drank again, like halfway through her outpatient treatment. And as soon as I got home, I called her immediately, and I had like that tone in my voice, like, hello, what are you doing? And I really was like upset that I was suspicious of her like that. So it actually made me realize that I have a lot of mending to do with my sister. While with my relationship with my sister, it's still not perfect. Like, our relationship was so centered around drugs and alcohol and partying and gambling and crazy. So we've been mending our relationship, but this relapse that she's had has definitely, like, we're still close, but it's definitely impacted me in some way. Yes.
We talked about too your boyfriend, and you said that you don't understand how he could have stayed with you. Was he the sort of number one person that you wanted to make things right with once kind of the fog lifted?
Yes. You mean like when I stopped drinking?
Correct.
Yes. Well, I mean, when I stopped drinking, it was the day that I got arrested. So, of course, I was sitting at the back of a cold police van. I don't know what you would call it. Like handcuffed.
I think a cold police van is pretty descriptive.
Yeah, my hands were like behind my back, and I was drunk, and like I called my boyfriend, like with my hands behind my back, pulled my hand out my pocket, like a total criminal, That's what I felt like. Pulled my phone out my pocket and called him, and I was like, I've just been arrested, and I could tell, like in the tone of his voice, that was the last straw. Like, he couldn't take it anymore. He was like actually crying. So I realized, like, if I didn't stop drinking right there and then, I was going to lose him.
Kiana, I think with this being said, it's important that we don't fall back onto old behaviors and lose any ground that we may have made with folks. Do you see in yourself any old behaviors that you have fallen back on and that have perhaps caused friction in the past?
It's not necessarily behaviors that come up. It's patterns of thinking. You know, for me specifically, you know, we always talk about that drugs and alcohol aren't the issue. You know, they're a symptom of the deeper issue. So whatever that deeper issue is, when your disbelief and your unwillingness to see your value in your life and your value in yourself and what it is that you deserve, you know, you start to think of yourself as less than what you are. You know, you have incredible power. You know, you have a life that's worth living. You know, you have people who love you and care about you. And what we tend to see, what I see in myself, is that when I start getting concerned about the way I look or the way that people perceive what I'm saying or the way that they might take the things I say or what they think about me, or particularly for me, a lot of the time it's the way I look, you know, my weight or the way my hair looks. When I start to get a little bit hyper focused on those things, that's when I start to see those addictive qualities come out, because I wasn't always a heroin or a methamphetamine addict. You know, my first addiction was codependency in a relationship. My second addiction was an eating disorder. My third addiction was jumping into drugs and getting into that type of culture. So if it wasn't one thing, it was the other. And it always came back to wanting to be liked, wanting people to accept me, feeling like people wanted to hear what I had to say and wanted my presence around. Why? Because I just wasn't really sure of who I was. And if anyone had asked, they would have probably said that I was the person in the room who knew more so than anybody of my identity. And the fact is, I was just lonely and scared, and I was just seeking love in all the wrong places, not understanding that love's an action. You know, it's a way that you treat people. Just not understanding that, you know, I was called for something so much greater, and just not believing that I was. That's when I start to think those things. That's when I know it's like, you got to get a hold of this. You got to take your thoughts captive, and you really, really need to understand that, like, this pattern of thinking, it's like cognitive behavioral therapy. What you think, you shall walk in. So if you start thinking you're any less than, if you start believing these lies that aren't true about yourself, that's when you start to see trying to relieve this pressure in different areas. And a lot of the time, it's lying, manipulation, far before it ever gets to the usage.
That's so true. It is, you know, if we start to believe our own lies, right? And when that fog is lifted and there's a little bit of clarity in our lives, it is almost like what was the truth and what wasn't, and how, alcohol fueled my life and made every decision for the better part of 2 decades in my life. And when I didn't have that decision maker anymore, and I was a 33-year-old adult man who had no idea who I was as a person, it's daunting, and it's hard to, for me, it was hard to jump into wanting to mend relationships when I still, how do you do that when, I need to mend myself first?
Absolutely.
Amber, how is your relationship with your nan?
My gran, you mean?
Your gran.
Like my grandmother. Damn. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, terms are really different. My nan. It's complicated. It's like we really love each other, but we have this love-hate relationship. We argue a lot. This kind of ties into what Kiana was talking about, like how, for me, I don't think that my substance abuse and my addictions were just like because I'm an addict. It's like a symptom of a really big, deep mix of mental health problems. Like I've had like mental health issues relating to eating disorders. Also, like, get very fixated on my looks, and also I have borderline personality disorder, which also was a very big trigger for my reckless, manic consumption of drugs and alcohol. Like, so Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there and I got a bit sidetracked from the main question. Sorry, can you just
No,
clarify
you
the
you
question?
were you were answering it. Just your relationship with your gran and
Oh, yes.
how
Yes.
it's kind of volatile.
Yes, so basically, because of my borderline personality disorder, I have volatile relationships with certain people, and I believe that my gran has the disorder as well. It's highly genetic, like she hasn't been diagnosed, but I personally believe that she does. So we have a very volatile relationship. We argue a lot. She doesn't trust me fully, which I respect, I understand, but it's difficult. It really is difficult. Like I did tell you last time that you can't force people to forgive you and everyone has to go at their own pace, but um, even when I was at the worst of my addiction, I never stole from my family or anything like that. Not because I was like morally superior. I just had a rich boyfriend who always gave me money all the time, and I never had the need to steal for my supply. So yeah, like um, it's just been difficult. Obviously, I've created problems with my family that are very difficult to repair because they don't know the root of a lot of the problems. They don't understand that there was addiction behind it. They just remember the actions, but they don't understand, like, I was coming down, I was high, I was addicted, I was agitated.
I think
So
there's like
yeah,
a really
volatile,
important
but I love
distinction
her
too
a
that you
lot.
said there, that they have seen these behaviors and patterns before, and what I had said earlier was that nobody's there to watch the journey that you go through. You spend 24/7 with yourself, so you're the one living these daily bouts of recovery, and unfortunately they don't get to see what happens in the darkness. They don't get to see what happens in that quiet space. Then all of a sudden one of these behaviors, or something triggers you and
Yes.
comes out, and all of a sudden the first thing they say is, see, like I told you, like you're not getting any better, you're just pretending. And
Yes.
that can be really
Yes.
detrimental too, because you want people to come alongside you who are going to support you and educate themselves and understand. But unfortunately some people really, really do just think that it's as easy, I mean it is, as like not picking up. But there's a lot of behavioral modification that has to happen after that, and it does not happen overnight. When I shared with Nate my story about how I had to spend 27 months in a place because I was so habitually hurting myself that I had to be somewhere because I couldn't get honest. It took me like 17, 18 months just to tell the truth when somebody said something to me, but I had to have these behaviors corrected, and that's a process. So I want to encourage you, it won't be the last time, it probably will happen again, but don't look at that as a measure of how far that you've come or how far you feel that you're slacking, because the truth is you have come so far, and it takes time to get rid of these behaviors. It's okay. It's a walk. It's not a sprint, and we're still all in the process.
Yes.
Well
Yes,
said.
like of course, I realize like that as me mending my addictions with alcohol and drugs is just mending a part of my bigger mental
And
health problem. So
mending that
it's
specific
definitely a
part,
big journey.
getting the problem with alcohol and the problem with drugs, getting a handle on that will begin to allow everything else to fall into line. Why? Because at the very least you're not messing with your brain chemistry. You're cleaning out, sobering out, and now you can kind of attack these things without that third influence coming in. It's okay. And it'll keep getting better too.
Made a big difference, definitely. Yes. Thanks so much for your encouragement. I really appreciate it.
You're not always going to meet people.
She's a great encourager.
Yes. I think
You
once I
will
get to
learn
that,
this.
once I get to that stage where I've been like sober for like 5 years, I think I will feel like so much more confident in myself.
That's great.
And
like
stable
setting a goal
and,
for yourself and saying,
I'm
going to feel good, but don't forget the little milestones too. You woke up today, you lived your life, and guess what? You didn't drink or use. Yeah. And for me, like that's an incredible accomplishment today.
Yeah, that's true.
Really.
Amen.
5 years will feel great. It felt great for me, but you know what?
Definitely.
I know 10 years is going to feel great, but the fact of the matter is I live today, and today is an awesome day. It really is.
a very positive way of thinking.
Yes.
Hey, Kiana, do you want to sing a ditty
Always
for us?
singing
I'm
against
just
me
kidding.
everywhere.
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna make you sing, but I thought I'd scare you a little bit by saying that.
Okay, I am grateful.
What are you grateful for
that-
today?
I love it when you ask me this question, because I always tell you, it forces me to think right in this moment, what is it that I'm happy I was able to do? And well, first of all, it was pouring all morning, and now
Yes.
the sun's shining super bright. Like it's really, really nice. But also, I have a church family that has been very, 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 very good to us. We just moved across the state, and they are so selfless, so loving. But unfortunately, the husband's father passed away. And it was last minute. You know, they live in one of the U.S. territories, so you know it's a flight across the ocean, and you have to pick up a rental car and all of these things. And I really, really felt the push to try to help them in some way financially, I guess. So I kept trying to use my points, like my Southwest points, to purchase a rental car or a flight, and it wasn't working. And I really just felt like it was like, no, I was supposed to give an offering and, you know, make a sacrifice for myself so that I could help somebody else. So the fact that I was able to purchase a rental car and not have to figure out where I was going to take it from, and like, I'm not rich at all. So the fact that I was able to take that from somewhere and to not feel like I was restricting an area of my life and give that as an offering was like a really awesome blessing, because I did used to steal from my family. I'd be going through their budget envelopes and taking money out of Christmas and, you know, cable bills and whatever else from, you know, my elderly parents. They were 75 at the time, and, you know, they're living on pensions, and I'm taking money from them. Well, today I had the opportunity to help somebody who was also in recovery, like 20 years in recovery, to be able to give an offering of a blessing and not feel like I had to take away from somewhere in my life, and know that, you know, I'm not living on the street anymore, and I'm not stealing money from people anymore. And now I have a blessing and an abundance that I can do little things here and there to help somebody out the way that people have helped me too. I like paying it forward, and I'm grateful I can do that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Amber, how about you? What are you grateful for today?
You know, it will sound silly to some people, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to be like around my family, and they can leave like alcohol on the table, and they're not worried I'm going to go drink all their expensive alcohol, which I really noticed today. No one was stressed about that, so they just left all their alcohol around. So that was really, really nice for me. I can notice that I'm repairing relationships slowly. So I'm grateful to be at this point, and I'm grateful to be independent. That's most important for me.
Well said. I'm grateful for the two of you today. I could not be more humbled and just happy to have met you, and, you know, not only helping me to launch this podcast, but to continue to answer my weird requests and emails and text messages, and to continue to be involved as we kind of come up with new ideas and evolve. And, you know, I wanted to go live on Facebook, and you both were like, sure, sounds fun. What time? And here we are. So my gratitude for the two of you is boundless. You're both beautiful women, and I'm blessed to have met you. So thank you for that. Kiana, you are, you know, so beautifully well-spoken. Can you give us some words of hope to leave with our viewers and listeners with today?
You know, recovery is a process. It's a journey. And I think sometimes we get really hung up on, well, when this happens, then, you know, things will be better. And something that somebody told me, actually a spiritual mentor had really sown a lot into my life. And something that she had said was, it sounds super cliche, but, you know, some people are here for a season. Some people are here for a lifetime. And it does you more good to surround yourself with like-minded people, you know, people who have the same mindset, who are walking the same road as you. And I'm not talking about just in recovery, but, you know, where's your life going? When they say you're a sum of your 5 closest friends, I mean, there is some validity to that. But you have to be okay with allowing some of these people to be put into your life for a season and for a purpose, and allowing some of these people to be taken out of your life. Don't see it as a loss. Don't see it as a failure. Maybe these are just people who are going to hinder you from your process and from your progress in the future. And that's okay. Like, we outgrow people and we outgrow circumstances. And I don't mean that in a prideful way. I don't mean it in a petty or selfish way, like, oh, I've outgrown you. No, just things change. You know, we develop as people. We're not supposed to stay the same. I remember seeing a meme on Facebook a couple of years ago that had the caterpillar talking to one of his friends, and it shows all these things that they went through, and at the end it's a butterfly, and the friend is saying, you've changed, and the butterfly says, I was supposed to. Like, you are supposed to change. You are supposed to grow. And if you're staying stagnant, then it's a waste. And that's all right. You know, you don't need to live your life trying to live for people's approval and for them to sew into you and say, like, no, you're worth it, to tell you from an outside perspective, you're worth it. You should already know that, and you should never forget that. Maybe the people being removed from your life are just those chains that are being broken, so you can move forward and you can run towards your goal. So anybody who's listening today, I encourage you, if you're really stressing out about some of these people coming back in your life, then it's okay. Like, they may come back, they may not. It's not your responsibility, but either way, there's purpose in that. And the purpose is going to take you to that next level. You can't get to where you're going to go unless you allow yourself to step into that in faith. It'll become complete. It'll make sense someday. It will.
Beautiful. Well, ladies, I think that will bring us to the close of today's The Sobriety Diaries Roundtable. I can't thank you enough. I appreciate both of your time today. Check back soon for new episodes with new stories to tell. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We also upload and live stream on youtube.com/Nate Kelly. And you can check out all things podcast related at thesobrietydiaries.com. Ladies, again, thank you so much. And if we help just one person today, I think our job is done. So thank you for that. And we will see you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, YouTube.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, Amber. Thanks, Kiana.